Three, two, one. Welcome back to the Frequency of Fatherhood Summit. Today we have Nate Feathers, aka Dads Don't Babysit, for those that are on Instagram. We're going to lean into connection today. I love exactly what Nate's putting out everywhere, his message about helping men rewrite the narrative around traditional fatherhood, right? Really diving into connection with kids, connection to self, and connection to spouse. Nate, thank you again for coming today. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Thank you so much. And I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Nate, I know that I asked you earlier before we jumped on, like, why jump into this work? Like, what is your why? What brought you into this field, and the vision that you have for Dads Don't Babysit?
Yeah. I don't know why, but as soon as you asked me, I started thinking about why, and it started to make me tear up. So I guess that's a good why, right? The reason for me starting into this was that I actually took my oldest to college. And when I came home, I sat out on the front porch, and it was like this overwhelming, without it sounding like he died, because he didn't. He just went on to college. Like it was like it's over, like you don't have the influence you had over him anymore. And the moment that happened, I had this those near death experiences where you see your life flash before your eyes. I just saw how I parented him the whole way through, and I was sad and embarrassed so much of how I treated him and how I was, because I was like, I could have done that so much better and so differently. Why did I act like that? Why did I think I had to tell him what to do all the time or make him mind, however I put that? I'm like, I could have been so much less a jerk and could have a better connection. And now I'm going to have to work so much harder to make him want to have that connection with me. And I'm like, I just took him to college, and now I don't have that. And he could go away and never want to come back. And the last thing I want is for my own children, like, to not want to come back to me. And honestly, I had that vision in like that 5 seconds or 2 seconds or whatever it is. And then I thought to myself, I don't want to do that with my other children, because he's one of five, and I've got one on the way. So he's one of what will be six. I don't want to do that with my own children. But truthfully, no man who's a dad should feel what I feel right now. And if I can tell people the difference that I want, like the difference I need to make in my own life, and help them make those choices sooner, they won't have to feel what I'm feeling.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that, and I forgot to mention that you're a father of five, soon to be six, and so, like,
That's all right.
connection. Every child is different. And something that you just mentioned that I want to kind of dive into is, like, I really do believe, and I think you could agree, that men out there want to connect with their kids, right? They want to be able to have a deeper level of understanding. I think we just don't know how, right? And
Yeah.
so, like, within your own experience, kind of, you realize, taking your son to college, that you left some things on the table and you wanted to do things differently. Like, how did you start to walk that back and change for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, and I think what you said is true. Guys want that. And if you talk to old men or men who are on their deathbed, they're going to tell you the regrets of their life. And it's not, I wish I would have worked more, or I wish I would have made more money. It will be, I wish I would have spent more time with my family. I wish I would have, gone on those trips with my kids, or just spent time with them when they were little, and then gotten to spend more time with them as they had their own babies. I think that's what you're going to find from, even just from men. And so there is this desire to connect, but like you said, we don't really know how to do that. And I think that we actually do know how to do it, but there's this selfish desire inside of us. Like, I work and now I'm tired. And so I want to sit on the couch and I want to watch TV and I want to veg out. And if you're a father of like babies to 10, they only want to be around you. I mean, I walk in the door, I own a Christmas light business. And so our normal life is upside down right now, but like normally I'm around. But in the Christmas season, like November, I'm gone sun up to sundown. One of the best things for my day is when I open the door, our wreath has bells on it and it rings. And when I open the door, my youngest, who's 3, she comes around the corner yelling, "Daddy," and sprints all the way to me and jumps into my arms, or if I kneel down, just like massive hug. Like that, like I can't let that go. And so for me, I go, I have to be cognizant of that, because if I come in on my phone, that hug is totally different, right? If I stay on my phone and I walk into the kitchen and I don't put my phone down, then all of my kids miss out on anything, like any interaction with me. And that right there, just being present in that moment and being aware that my phone keeps me from them and I've been away from them all day. The TV will keep me from them and I've been away from them all day. I'm tired. Well, I don't get, like, I get to be tired and that's okay. But if I sit down, I'm falling asleep. So I guess I better not sit down. Like, how do I stay standing? How do I, you know, look at, like, if I sit on the couch, I know I'm gonna fall asleep. So how do I not do that so that I can be with them? And I think that's where we as dads, we come in, we're like, I've had a hard day at work. I just want to sit down, drink a beer, watch some TV, or whatever it is your drink of choice. And you miss the connection with children. Now, after 10, they start to not really care about you, right? They care about their life and their friends, and you miss that opportunity to have grown a relationship where they want to be around you. So you've got to just be like mentally aware that this is the most important thing, and it's not important. It's important for now, but it's more important for the future. And so what do I have to do to, how am I investing now this little bit of time where my phone is put up, or, or I help them build something, a Legos, whatever, to be in their life right now. That way I'm building trust and I'm building relationship so that when they're 13, they still kind of want me around at least a little bit.
Yeah, you said something there that like I think all men can relate with, right? And we do know how, but it starts at the level that you just talked about, right? And if we go and watch TV, or we're going with our phone in, like, we're showing our kids, right? It starts with us setting that standard. We're showing our kids how to relationally be, right? Like,
Yes.
this is how dad is when he comes in. This is the expectation as I continually build that standard. This is the expectation of what it's going to be like. And so for you, like, coming back to you for a second, I know many men, I struggle with this too, right? Like, what did you do? Like, you made the awareness of, like, I needed to put my phone down, I need to do other things. Was there like a mindset shift? Was there something tangibly you did? Because I know many men are tangible. They're like, Nate,
Sure.
like, just give me something, I'll do it. Just
Yeah.
give it to me.
Yeah. One of the majors is I take them with me. Like, I tell dads this all the time. Like, take them with you. They're gonna make it harder to do whatever it is you're doing. If you garden and you go out in the garden, they're gonna be all over you. They're gonna be stepping and stuff. So you just need to know that you're gonna probably have to fix something later, or they're gonna, because they're learning, so they're gonna mess it up, or they're gonna, like, whatever, but they want to be hands-on, but they want to be around you. So, dude, I mean, as small as I go to this grocery store and come home, it's a 10-minute deal. If any of my kids come with me, it's now a half-hour deal. But I take them with me. If they say they want to go, they're coming. And then once one says they want to go, then I'm like, anybody else want to come? And it's a whole thing. So just make it something where they're with you. Like, how often is it that you can't take your kids somewhere, right? I know that you like, maybe your job is not safe. Like, I get on roofs to put on Christmas lights. They can't go with me there. But when I'm bulbing lights at night, they can do that, and they're participating in it with me, and they're with me. They just want to do what we do. That's why I mean, the saying is, like, do as I say, not as I do, but we know that it's flip-flopped, right? They're going to do what we do, not what we say. That's why we're the example, and we have to set that standard, like you're saying. But if I take them with me, they're going to do all of those things with me. So if you work out in the garage, let them be in the garage. If you go to a gym, I mean, I do CrossFit, so I go to a place, but I also coach, so I have a key to the place. So if I go when nobody else is there, my kids come with me. They swing on the ropes, they do pull-ups, they whatever, but they're doing stuff around me. Even if they're not doing my workout, they're watching me work out, and that's it's a ton of stuff. They're with me. They're seeing that I'm working out. So this is a standard of living. This is what we do, and they're getting exercise. They're getting energy out. It gives their mom a break. I mean, like, there's so many things that just taking your kids with you as often as you can to as many places as you can, that will change the game. And the more you do, the more they get to learn.
Yeah, it seems so easy, right? Like, I agree with you. It seems so easy. I know, and I'm gonna go down this road with you, is like, a lot of times, with gender-based roles, right? Father being the financial provider, they're not around much. And so now you're telling men, hey, be more present, right? How do we help men rewrite the narrative around that traditional fatherhood? How do we like create this different expectation? Because I mean, people in general, but let's just throw it to men, is like they don't like change. Like change is uncomfortable.
Yeah, totally. I think there's a part of that where, and you'll probably feel this too. It's like, yeah, okay, well, change is uncomfortable. Well, do you like the way it is right now? Like, you have to let the pain of changing, once that becomes less than the pain of staying the same, that's when change happens, right? So you either have to get to the point where change is less painful, or you have to decide, and I think this is a better move. This is the person I want to be. This is the dad I want to be, and this is how I want to do it. And that takes just the mental process of saying, what do I want? And then saying, I don't really care what it takes to do that. I'm going to do that. So for me, I actually had a job where, like, I had a 9 to 5 kind of style where I worked from home, but I had my daughter like was having a rough time. I was on a call, and I wasn't the one doing the call. So I darkened my screen and I held her, and she fell asleep. Well, at the end of the call, the guy's like, hey, do you want to get back on and stay by, Nate? And I'm like, oh, crap. I'm like, well, I'm holding a kid. And I'm like, you know what? No, yeah, sure. Click. Said, hey, guys, see ya. Sorry, she was having a rough time. She fell asleep. My boss at the time came and said, that's not the kind of way we want to portray life. Well, here's my thing. I'm dad. I'm at Dads Don't Babysit, right? Like, I'm a father. At this point, we don't align, because that is how I roll. So see ya. That works for me because of the situation in my life. But as soon as I realized, oh, we don't vibe, I'm like, I'm done. And that's hard for us, because lots of men get locked into a life. They have to, like, I have to go to a job. I have to do these things because I have all of these other obligations I have to take care of. And I don't want to negate that at all. I live in that too. 5 kids, 1 on the way. I have plenty in my mind going, I have to do these things. But I think the moment we start to step into who we really are and not be ashamed of that or afraid of it, is where people will go, I respect that guy. Like, you know what? Yeah, his kid's going to be here. And I've heard of I wish I could remember who it was. I think he was interviewed on Mind Valley. He's like a huge like biochemist, if I'm not mistaken, but he took his kid everywhere. Like, he took his sons with him everywhere, even to business meetings. And honestly, they just get to learn. He's like, if they're going to learn business, they're going to learn it from you. You might as well take them with you. And part of me would like balk at that, like, oh, but then they're going to want to be into everything and get into stuff. And I feel like you start to teach them, this is how we act in this kind of environment. And they start to learn. But then people just go, oh, well, Nate brings his kids everywhere because he's being a dad. And that is the top level of importance to him. And if I'm going to interact with Nate, I'm going to probably interact with his kids. Like, any moment, none of my kids are home right now, but at any moment in any interview I do, I'm like, you're probably going to have a kid like jump across here or sit down and like wave, and it's going to happen. And I'm not going to stop it because they're important to me. And I mean, what's crazy is they learn monkey see, monkey do. I have a ring light and that kind of stuff set up I have caught my daughter, my 3-year-old, in here with that light on, saying, okay, guys, and like doing conversations with nothing because she's seen her dad do it. Right. It's just, I don't know. I think that's something we have to be able to change the name of the game as dads. We have to be willing to do what others might not like, or stuff we haven't done before, because if we keep doing the same thing, we're going to keep getting the same results. And from the sounds of it, like guys like you and the crew of guys you're putting together, we don't want the same results. So we have to be willing to do something different, and taking our kids with us to be able to always connect and teach them. I mean, I guess I look at it like, let the world deal with that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny is like, I have curiosity often, and I tell men this all the time, is like, you have to have curiosity around the thought, children are our teachers, right? When we look at our children, and specifically, like, my oldest is 10, like, he's the one that triggers me the most, right? And I'm going to tie this in here, but like, he's the one that triggers me the most because as a child, and I think most men can relate to this, as a child, we were so reprimanded for acting out or to have those feelings. And so
Yeah.
like seeing my son go through different, phases, or emotional phases and challenges that he's had in my life, I start to get, I start to grit my teeth. I start to get that, that on edge. And our children are shining light on something that we really, a part of ourselves that we haven't looked at, we haven't
Yeah.
accepted, that it wasn't allowed into the world. And so I
Yeah.
think that's the most important as fathers, is having that curiosity, creating this connection we're speaking of, to allow our kids to influence us, not just be influenced by us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's huge. I love that, man. That's massive. I dig that. Totally
Yeah.
true.
And so I going back to kind of, not kind of, the work that you do is, we are now trying to fit in, or help society say, hey, fathers just don't do this, right? And so like,
Right.
so I know that you work with many men. What is the challenges that the men that you were working with, what is coming up for them through this rewriting of what fatherhood is?
Yeah, I think it's figuring out how to integrate all of that. We're still dealing with how to integrate that, right? Like, I say take them to work with you. Like, you got the one day that's bring your kid to work day kind of thing most of the time for a lot of people that work like a 9 to 5. Um, and even that day is usually just a day of nobody's doing anything because there's kids everywhere. But I don't know. I think that the biggest challenge is being able to like understand I am the example. So what am I doing that is teaching them? Again, they're not going to do what I say. I mean, 98% of the time, they're not going to do what I say. But the opposite is true. 98% of the time, they are going to do what I do. They're going to say what I say, and they're going to do what I do. So what am I doing? How am I living? What are the things in my life that I can't stand? Well, why am I doing those things? Right. And do I want to sit by as an older man and watch my children do the exact same thing? No. Then it's on me to choose the life I want to live to be the best example to them so that I can set them on a trajectory that says if they choose to change or like fix stuff or make the legacy a little bit slightly different, good on them because they're trying to be like who they're supposed to be. I think the biggest challenge is understanding how to integrate that into a world that really, honestly, at least in the United States where I live, they don't, that's not what they want. You know what I mean? That's not what businesses want. That's not what, honestly, it feels like they want to take dad out of the situation more often than anything else. And for me, that just makes everything weaker, you know?
Yeah, I really do believe in the direction you're going with that, because when you take out the father, right, you're really disconnecting families, and I think that's why that. And I'm not here to bash the government by any means, but like these structures, these systems that are put in place are meant to break up the families, right? Is to disconnect them, for the parents to work 40 hours, each parent working 40 hours, the kids going to school and being indoctrinated by the school systems. And I think we're starting to wake up by that. Like COVID, that this whole pandemic has opened people's eyes and said, hey, you know what? We can take back our responsibility, right? And a lot of people get confused when I say, hey, like, take back your responsibility. And they're like, well, I'm responsible. I have a job. I do this. I do this. But when I talk about taking responsibility for your life, it's about taking responsibility for the choices you make, right? Instead of deferring and being upset with what happens, like really putting them into that. So like many fathers out there, they're doing everything financially. Are they checking the box emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually? Financially, they already are.
Yeah.
So for you, I want to go back to you, because like you're just rocking it, man. You're jamming, you're killing it. And like, what are you doing? Like, what is your self-care routine? Because I know I'm a firm believer that to be a servant leader, you have to serve yourself first. And I think so many fathers are outwardly focused that they forget that.
Yeah, yeah. I think either they're outwardly focused that they forget, or they're like in a place where they're stressed and tired, so they just don't do any of it, and it just continues to spiral down. I will say that my fatherhood and my interaction with my children and my wife, all of that started to change when I started to really focus on my health. And again, it's just that whole concept that they tell you on an airplane, right? Put your mask on first. That's so you don't pass out and you and your kid then die. You're like, put your mask on first, take care of you, and then take care of the people around you. You can't fill anybody else's cup from an empty cup. Like, these are all cliche statements, but they're real. And so, yeah, I wake up, generally I wake up around 4 a.m. And I don't say everybody has to do that, but if I don't work out in the morning, my day will get away from me and I won't work out. And there have been plenty of times where I've not done that. And then in the middle of the day, my wife is like, you need to go work out because you are not really kind right now. And it's a mental thing and an emotional thing for me because there's so much that can go into that. I mean, I'm a total nerd. So when it comes to the physiological that's affected by that, I'm all about it. But just know the more you work out, the better you feel. And that's not just like better you feel because of the way you look. It's actually like your body feels better. So 4 a.m. I get up, I get ready, I drink a bunch of water, go to the gym. I'm usually there till around 6. I do coach in the morning. So sometimes I'm there from about 4:30 to like 4:30 to about 6:30, 7:30. And that's just if I coach, but usually it's a couple hours. And then come home, I'll help get the kids ready for school. We don't homeschool specifically. We actually send our kids to a holistic farm school. It's probably the next closest thing that I'm okay with it right now, only because of what's going on in our life. And so I'm like, maybe I'll do the homeschooling thing here soon, but and I'm leaning on that pretty hard. But I help get them all ready, and then get them off to school. Currently, I haven't been doing that just because Christmas lights had taken such a front row for me. But a normal would be like I get up, I work out. I usually tend to try and read when I get home before everybody wakes up, if I can pull that off. And then get the kids off to school, and then it's shifting as I've started to shift roles. I had like I said, I think I said this. I had a 9 to 5 that I took on that I was like, yeah, this isn't working. So I'll be shifting. I'm shifted fully out of that. So come the end of Christmas lights, when I take them all down, then my day will start after everybody's out of the house from there.
Yeah, and what's really cool is like the consistent theme with the speakers. It's a must, right? You have these non-negotiables, and like how I interpret the non-negotiables is having boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, men were not supposed to have boundaries, or around like. And where I'm going with this is like, I know for me, like I need to be outwardly focused on pleasing everybody.
Yeah.
But when I voice like, hey, this is not cool, or hey, I'm not happy, or this, so hey, just suck it up. And so where I'm going with this is like, these non-negotiables have to be your boundaries. They have, for me, I love cold tubbing. I cold immersion every day. And I started, my kids got in this morning with me, which was great. It's like, I'm starting to incorporate my family. These are non-negotiables, and teaching that and allowing that space for our kids to understand that, boundaries are okay. And, we could go deep into that. But where I'm going with this is, and it might be a multifaceted question, but how is entrepreneurship, this dad's business, parenting, how is it all interconnected? What do you think is if there's a common denominator, what do you think would it be?
I think that comes from I would say like life purpose. Like I don't think you have to like go find it. I think you figure it out as you go. Like I think that I come from the church background. My dad was a pastor, so I'd say God, but you can put that in however you see it, like universe, source, whatever. I think there are certain things that are in us. I tell my kids all the time, like, you are here on purpose. My oldest was not planned, but he's here because he's supposed to be. I look at my younger ones, and like my life was, I was married previously, had 2 kids, went through a divorce, had 3 more kids. The divorce, unfortunate as it is, had to happen. The life that I have now it required that because I have these children here. And when I look into the face of my oldest and say, you're supposed to be here, I also can look in the face of my youngest and say, you're supposed to be here. And what is it that you're going to do? Like I hold their face all the time, and I'm like, I love that you're mine. I cannot wait to see what you do. Like, I'm so excited to watch you grow up. And like, that does a great thing connection wise, but I really am excited to see what it is you're meant to do. So from my standpoint, realizing like I have felt all the way through life, I am supposed to teach and help people. Like, that has been something all the way through. So for me, this is just becoming like full circle back around to, oh, it wasn't these areas I was supposed to help. I'm actually made to help dads. Like, I've had the experience now of almost 20 years of being a dad, and now it's, how do I help? And like, now we have, like, 20 years ago, we didn't have then we had Facebook, but that was it, right? We didn't have all this stuff. And so this whole Instagram, like dads don't babysit Instagram thing going the way it has is really just confirmation that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And honestly, my fatherhood, it all comes from examples. Like all of this stuff comes from stuff I'm learning or I've learned. So anything I share, I'm still going through. Like, when I'm like, hey, we shouldn't yell at our kids. Trust me, there have been plenty of times where I'm like, everybody stop, like it's just, I'm still going through that. It's not that and I'm sitting there like, I don't want to yell, stop it. Like, I'm better than this, like that kind of stuff. Then I go back in and I apologize. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. That's not the way I'm supposed to act. It's not your fault. That's dad not being the man he's supposed to be. Those kind of things. But then I just turn around and I tell guys, just do that. Like, I'm learning that I connected deeper with my kids when I tell them I'm grateful that they're on this planet and that I get to have them in my life. I connect deeper with them. So, hey, dad, go do that with your kids. I guarantee you something will shift in your life and in theirs, and you'll feel a deeper connection. It's all coming from just my life integrates deeply into that because I'm still being a dad and learning stuff. And like you said it, every kid is different. Dude, you've got 5. I've got, like, if guy has 1 kid, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I literally at times feel like I have 5, still don't know what I'm doing because the newest one doesn't act like the oldest one.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, because so many people ask me, like, you got 5 kids, like, what's the secret? And I think it's important. You just said something is like, we're going through it as well. And it goes back to a comment that I made off the screen to you is like, you are giving what you're doing, the work that you're doing, the men that you're coaching, the vulnerability that you're putting out into the universe, you're giving men permission to follow your footsteps. You're that frontline leader. You're breaking the barriers down, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you don't make mistakes too. This work has allowed us to have more awareness when we get into that rut. So we can take that deep breath and choose which way we're going to go. Are we going to take the way that we teach everyone else, or are we going to allow our own processes to take us down the road that we don't want to, right? So that's the beautiful thing of this all is, and the consistent theme is like, everyone is different. What you were telling men to do and the advice that you're giving them is may work for this guy, but it's not necessarily going to work for the next guy.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, it leads me to this is like, if you could sum all of this up, right? How, in your opinion, how can you create a deeper connection with your kids from your own experiences and the men you work with?
Yeah. I just tell people, because you get pushback, right? Like, even when I was like, let's not spank, let's not yell, people are like, oh, sometimes I have to yell and sometimes we have to spank. I'm like, nah, I don't think you do. And that's because it didn't work for me. It's not working. And so I just say, hey, try this, try something different. And you said it, like, guys don't like change. We want to have, like, this is, like we want the consistency and all that. But, like, I sit there and go, okay, well, how do you feel when you're done yelling? I don't feel good. I don't feel great. Like, I've never spanked a kid, and I did spank back in the day. I never spanked him and then felt great about it. Like, I hated it. So why not try something else and give it 30 days, give it 60 days. And I'll just say, like, how's it going? But, like, give it time and see how it goes. And in the midst of not spanking or not yelling, and I'm not saying you're perfect, so you're probably going to screw up, and that's okay. Hold their face, try to connect with them, tell them how grateful you are for them. Maybe change your perspective on how you see them. Instead of seeing them as, like, tiny adults that are just getting into stuff or being problems, maybe you could go, oh, they're actually, they don't know that. They don't know, like, they didn't know what matches were, right? They got into a matchbox and they're dumping them everywhere, and then, like, they're playing with them and you're like, oh, that's not safe. But they didn't know that until you come in and go, hey guys, this isn't a safe thing. If you come in with a hammer, all you do is scare them. But if you come in and go, hey, what are we doing? And like, oh, we got the matches. Guys, this probably isn't a safe thing. Here's why. Like, you can change how you interact. And for me, it changed the game when I started going, they don't know the world yet. Like, they don't know all the things I know. So whereas if I were doing that, I would be doing it because I was causing problems. They're likely just trying to learn, and they don't know what this is. You know, they don't know what I don't know. I always used to say that you could put a room full of the best toys ever and then put a rusty dull knife in there, and the kid will end up playing with the rusty dull knife, right? But that's because you're gonna be like, no, don't mess with the knife. Like, they're just curious. And so if I come at them going, oh, they're curious, they're not trying to cause problems. They really aren't. They come from a good place, right? If you come from it there, you're going to interact with them differently. So try it. See how often you can go, hey, you're just trying to learn. How can I help you? How can I help you? That's the best. That's one of the best ways you can interact with them. I think try something new. If you come from a house where the default setting was yelling and spanking, and that's what you've done, well, did you feel like it worked in your house? Well, then try something new. I have some options. Touch them on the shoulder, right? Get their attention. Hey, buddy, what are we doing, right? Or they're screaming and inconsolable. I mean, how many dads, when the kids are screaming and inconsolable, it raises your blood pressure, and then you're just like, stop crying right now, right? I have heard myself say that back in the day. Now, you know what I do? I just let them cry. I actually tell them, cry it out. I hold them and tell them, cry as long as you need. And what's crazy is that I wanted them to stop crying, and when I told them that, it made them cry more. But when I tell them, cry as much as you need, it's going to be okay. You cry until you're done. They stop faster. They just feel heard. They feel seen. That's nuts, right? But like, so I guess the thing I say to the guys and the things I'm learning is, what's my default? Okay, that didn't really feel like it worked when I was working with Zeke, my oldest. So try something else.
Yeah, no, there's a lot there, and I sum it up like this, and it kind of it really aligns with what you're doing. Is like, traditional fatherhood was about getting respect through fear, right?
Yeah.
And what I hear you saying is you want to generate respect through connection, right?
Yeah.
And how I break down connection, that there's a therapist that I worked with and I've seen and do this in men's retreats, is connection is about the ability to influence and be influenced. And what you're doing is you're creating a connection. You're listening to what your children are putting off to you, and you're realizing, hey, that's not working. I need to change. I need to evolve. And that's like the whole message, and the reason why I wanted you to be on in this summit is that you are all about change. You're all about leveling up around how your kids are reacting to your parenting. And some people are like, well, they're that makes them dictating what you're doing. But I think that the way that we're starting to transition, we're transitioning to this respect through connection rather than respect through fear. We are, doesn't mean that we're gentle parenting. Gentle parenting means we have no boundaries. It means that we have boundaries, and now we are able to voice those boundaries. Now we are able to have some emotional intelligence and literacy around this space, so our kids can do so as well. Where the old lifestyle, we're just like, hey, suck it up, shut up, stop crying, go to your room. I'm the same way, man. Like when I first started, when I had my first kid, you know, as he got older and he started, you know, crying and screaming and tantrums, I'm like, I can't do this. I'm freaking out. Now I'm like, I'm holding them. I'm like, oh, you know, I'm here. Like, here, cool. Here's my shoulder. Cry on it. And what happens is, like you said, is there's that deeper connection. And at the end of the day, every man, every person wants to have connection with someone. And and there's so many traditional fathers that want the same connection, but they have the wall up. They have this belief that their way is the highway, and in reality, it's the highway to disconnection. So my last question, and I end with this, is like, you're doing such good work. You're out there, you're educating, you're in the front line. Like, if this message resonated for any man that's watching right now, how can they work? How can they get involved? How can they, you know, sign up for your services? Are there any products that you have right now that they can get a hold of?
Yeah, it's really, I mean, the number one way to connect with me, specifically me. And the thing is, like, there's guys out there like what you're doing, right? There's plenty of guys. There's Mr. Chaz. There's the tired dad. These guys are doing the same thing. I'm glad. It's funny because women will say, like, I wish more men thought like you, and I'm going, I have thousands of men that think like me, on this page. You know, it's that kind of thing. I tell people, if you message me, I'll message you back. So from my standpoint, on if it's me, reach out. Like, I will help, because I don't want any, like, no man left behind. You know what I mean? It's like, if you're struggling as a dad, the hardest thing to do is ask for help. Well, it's real easy to do that with me, because you don't know who I am, and all you got to do is send a message. You know what I mean? Like, start the process there, and we'll go from there. But really, it's connect with guys that are already doing it, you know. And I don't know. I think that's the number one thing. And the beauty of all of this is I live in a world of abundance, right? So I say it like, there's, again, with Christmas lights, you go in there and there's tons of competition, and yet at the same time, tons of houses with no Christmas lights. So there's plenty to do, right? I look at it just like that. Like, reach out to you, reach out to me, reach out to somebody, and start asking questions. Follow these guys. You know, at the risk of sounding arrogant, follow me. I will help. I'll do what I can. I mean, at some point, I'll do something that you'll resonate with, I assume. And then ask questions. Just be willing to be humble enough to ask questions and say, I don't know what I'm doing. Because the truth is, we don't know what we're doing, right? You might as well ask, because all of us are wondering.
We're just having fun along the journey, right? That's the most important part. Nate,
That's right.
appreciate the time today, brother, and I look forward to the next time.
Absolutely, man. Me too. Thanks.